Let's throw some jabs.
The fight starts now!
Well, Sergio, Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo kicked off the press tour for their September 30th showdown this week. Charlo will jump up 2 weight divisions for this fight, which will pit undisputed champions from different divisions against each other for the first time in the 4-belt era. Sergio, what chance do you give Jermell Charlo of pulling off the upset?
A very, very good chance, because Charlo, even though people like to say he was inactive, I like to say he was fresh. He's been fresh, because every time he comes back, he still looks like a monster. And he has the tools that you need to be successful against Canelo. A powerful, strong jab that you alternate, a check hook, the one that he was catching Castaño with, a big right hand, and he uses the ring. You notice Charlo's been moving a little bit more. He's still a boxer puncher. He's still very dangerous, but he's dangerous on the back foot, which is also what you need against Canelo Alvarez. And I just think with 37 fights that Charlo has compared to Canelo, who has 63 and has been boxing since 15, that wear and tear is bound to catch up on you. So I just think they're both the same age, 33, but in fight years, in the number of dog years, like I like to say, Canelo's way older. So I just think that can play a part. And the fact that Charlo's, mean, he's been waiting for this mega fight. And I think he has a great chance to do well.
Oh, I love this. I love when we disagree so strongly, because let me say this first. I want to give Jermell Charlo credit right off the bat. He's jumping up 2 weight classes. That's something. I give him a lot of credit for doing that, and I give him a lot of credit for everything he accomplished at 154. He beat everybody he needed to win all 4 of those belts. That means something. That being said, almost no chance. I don't want to say no chance, but almost no chance of beating Canelo Alvarez. Sergio, let's look at it specifically from the Charlo perspective first. One, when he steps in the ring, he's going to be coming off a 16-month layoff. That means something. When he steps in the ring, he's going to be coming off a hand injury that was so significant, it's kept him out of the ring for this long. So those are 2 things working against him. I also think reports of the demise of Canelo Alvarez have been greatly exaggerated. Everybody's pointing to Canelo and the fact that he couldn't knock out Gennady Golovkin. Everybody's saying Canelo couldn't knock out John Ryder. 2 clean wins against those guys, but the fact that he didn't blow them out of the ring has a lot of people believing he is a faded fighter. I don't think Canelo Alvarez is the destroyer we saw kind of between 2018 and 2021, but I still think he's a top 5 pound-for-pound guy, and I don't believe that about Jermell Charlo. And Jermell Charlo, recently seen in the ring against Brian Castaño, putting aside the second fight for a moment, the first fight against Castaño, he was backed up all night long. Castaño was coming forward. He was landing bombs. He was the pressure fighter. What do you think Canelo Alvarez is going to be when those 2 fight on September 30th? He's going to be a bigger, stronger, faster version of Brian Castaño that's going to force Jermell Charlo to fight off his back foot. I don't believe Jermell Charlo has the power to hurt Canelo at 168. I just don't see the path to victory here. I don't see Jermell outboxing Canelo. I don't see him hurting Canelo. And I see Charlo having a lot of problems with the pressure that undoubtedly is going to be applied by Canelo.
In order to beat Canelo, you need movement, you need a jab, and you need a respect. And I think Charlo brings all those 3 to the table. Yes, the inactivity's a red flag, but it's also due to injury. It's also due to the fact that he's a once-a-year type fighter, and usually that's a recipe for disaster, but Charlo gets away with it. And as far as the Brian Castaño
how does he
fight,
get away with it? How does he get away with it? How does he get away with it? His once-a-year, like
look
2 years ago.
Look at what he did with Castaño. Look at what he did the second time. That was a sensational performance.
But he fought Castaño in 2021. In 2021, during his, I believe, once-a-year fight. Caught him off guard, Mannix.
Caught him off guard. Castaño's a damn good fighter. If you go way back and you look to go back to the World Series of Boxing, everyone that he's fought, Castaño knows how to fight like a small man, and he gives everyone a hard, difficult fight because he's strong and he knows how to time you and break that distance at 5'6". Nobody likes to fight that type of fighter. So Charlo did it not only once but twice. He didn't look good the first time. He figured him out and knocked him out the second time. You got to give him a lot of credit for overcoming that. So I just think that experience he brings into the ring with another short, explosive, experienced fighter in Canelo. I think that experience really is going to be a benefit.
The draw with Castaño was ultra competitive. A lot of people thought Castaño won. The second fight was competitive until Charlo got the knockout. I don't believe he can get a knockout against Canelo. Nobody stops Canelo. I don't believe has the power at 168 to stop Canelo Alvarez. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Like, and you mentioned the word respect. How does Charlo get the respect of Canelo in a fight like this? How does he do it?
Punching in between the shots, and we've been seeing Charlo do that a little bit more. He did it against Castaño, not the first fight, the second time. That's what you do against fighters that throw a lot of combinations and have speed, they have timing. You can't really compete with the speed, so you check them in between the shots. That's what you do with Canelo to stop him throwing those 2, 3, 4 punch combinations and going to the body and ripping the uppercuts.
Who other than Dimitri Bivol has done that? Who other than Bivol has done that?
I mean, Golovkin has had his moments of doing that. Mayweather, of course, had his moments of doing that. There's certain.
Years ago,
I get it, but that's what you got to do, especially against an older version of Canelo, a more weathered version of Canelo, who's not punching in between the shots, who's not being as explosive. Now, once he does put you against the ropes and starts backing you up, then you see Canelo of old. But in the middle of the ring against a young, agile fighter that's popping that jab, moving his upper body, not staying in front of him, we're seeing flashes of an older version of Canelo. Not mature, not experienced, old and war-torn. So I think that's
that. I don't buy that. I don't think he's the same guy as
he looked like a killer against Ryder, Mannix? Did he look like...
He didn't. He didn't.
No, he did not. Did he look like did he look like a killer against Golovkin in that trilogy?
No, but he also had a hand injury in that fight that was significant enough that he had surgery on it right after. And that fight against Ryder was the first one he had since that surgery, which means something, which you don't, no matter how many sparring sessions you have, no matter how many months of training you do, until you get in the ring and use that hand as a weapon, you are not going to be confident in it. You need that fight to come back and be confident. Now Canelo is fresh, he's rested, he had the surgery, he's healthy. I think you're going to see the best version of Canelo since the Caleb Plant fight. I think that's what you're going to get in this fight.
I think you forgot what question you asked me. I never said Charlo was going to win. You said, does Charlo stand a chance to win?
Very good.
I think Canelo beats this. I think Canelo knocks out Charlo in a very competitive fight. How does Charlo win? And I just gave you the response to that. I didn't say Charlo's going to win this fight. Come on now.
You give him a good chance, though. I don't give him a good chance to win. I think Canelo's still 85 to 90% of the fighter that he once was. And I think his speed, his power, his aggressiveness. I'm already hearing about, well, Charlo's looks down at Canelo. He's bigger. Canelo looks up at everybody. Literally everybody Canelo has fought over the last few years, he is looking up at. He looked up at Callum Smith. He looked up at Caleb Plant. He looked up at Sergey Kovalev. Beat the brakes off all of them. The only guy that's been able to beat Canelo was Dimitri Bivol, who was 175 pounds stronger and highly skilled. So I don't see any of those attributes in Jermell Charlo. I think Canelo gets the job done. I think this fight, I don't want to pick a round at this point, but I think Canelo is in the lead when it stopped, and I think he gets a stoppage by putting so much pressure on Charlo that he crumbles eventually.
It's a late stoppage. I see this fight going 9-10 rounds, maybe even more. But, recently Canelo's been getting knockouts in the 10th, 11th round, sometimes in the championship rounds. I just don't see him getting early knockouts. And if Charlo can go into the second half of the fight with success, with rounds in the bank, having that confidence and fighting behind a game plan and strategy, he's going to have to fight off Canelo, and that's going to be in the later rounds. If he can absorb that power and get the respect with his own power, that's a question that I want answered. I still ultimately think Canelo gets a knockout, but it's going to be fun while it lasts.
16 months off, significant hand injury, and in his last significant fight, he did not deal well with the pressure of Brian Castaño. I don't know how you look at these things and believe there is much of a chance at all that Canelo Alvarez could lose.